Some cities sprawl by accident. These didn't. They were drawn first, with compasses, rulers, and a belief that geometry could fix chaos. From Renaissance star fortresses that turned math into armor to 20th century capitals plotted like aircraft from the sky, these places are more than maps. They're manifestos built in stone, brick, and boulevard. Today, we're counting down 15 towns designed with astonishing geometric precision, shapes you can read from an airplane window and feel at street level. The discipline of a grid, the drama of a radial fan, the calm logic of circles. Each one answers the same question in a different way. What happens when you design a whole town like a diagram? Let's begin where cabbages and compasses meet, in rings of gardens on the edge of Copenhagen. Number 15. Copenhagen's circular garden city, Brøndby, Haveby, Denmark. On Copenhagen's fringe sits a pattern that looks computer-generated, perfect concentric circles sliced into even wedges, each wedge a small plot with a seasonal cottage. Locals call it Haveby, the Garden City, but from above it reads like a land art installation dropped into the suburbs. The idea isn't sci-fi. It's rooted in Denmark's allotment tradition from the late 1800s, when industrialization crowded workers into tight apartments and cities carved out garden plots so families could grow food, breathe, and socialize. In the 1960s, Copenhagen planners scaled the concept up with geometry. Each will carries roughly 24 to 26 identical plots, around 400 square meters apiece, all pointing inward to a shared green. The result is fairness built into the ground, equal sun, equal soil, equal access to the communal core. Municipal rules keep the houses seasonal and modest, so the emphasis stays on the gardens, not second homes. That restraint matters. It preserves the crisp pattern and keeps the circles functioning as community, not gated enclaves. Walk a wedge path, and you experience the order as rhythm. Hedges, tool sheds, berry bushes, barbecue smoke drifting toward the central lawn where neighbors share coffee and seedlings. The shape also solves practical problems. Circular lanes reduce through traffic. Radial paths shorten walking distances. And the uniform allotment sizes sidestep the politics of who gets the big one. From satellite height, it's a viral image. On the ground, it's Danish social design at work. Small, green, equitable, and unmistakably geometric. Number 14. Palmanova, the Renaissance star that still shines, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Italy. Picture a 9-pointed star the size of a town, every angle calculated to turn cannon fire into a math problem. That's Palmanova, founded in 1593 by the Republic of Venice at a tense frontier where empires watched each other through gun smoke. Engineers of the day treated fortification like geometry class. Palmanova's plan stacks layers, 9 arrow-headed bastions, joined by curtain walls and wrapped in moats and earthworks. The star's points create overlapping fields of fire, eliminating dead zones that doomed medieval walls. Inside, radial avenues shoot from a central hexagonal piazza. 3 concentric rings complete the choreography, so troops could move quickly and citizens could find the center without a map. The design wasn't only tactical, it was ideological. Renaissance thinkers believed harmony in architecture could produce harmony in civic life. A perfect form might produce a better citizen. Reality was messy, eh? Early on, Venice had to lure settlers with tax breaks and land grants because living in a garrison isn't most people's dream. But the shape proved resilient. The town weathered Napoleonic and Austrian control, shifted from cutting-edge fortress to lived-in town, and kept its lines intact. Today, Palmanova is part of a UNESCO listing of Venetian defenses. Climb the ramparts and you see why. Straight streets converge on the piazza like spokes. Beyond them, the 9 points punch outward into green. From the air, it's a snowflake of stone. At ground level, it's a quiet town whose mathematical armor outlasted the war it was built for. Number 13. Naarden, water, walls, and a 6-pointed compass, North Holland, Netherlands. The Dutch didn't just build walls, they weaponized water. Rebuilt in the 17th century, Naarden is a 6-point star wrapped by double moats and earthen ramparts, a fortified jewel in a flat, floodable landscape. Each bastion at the star's points is paired with ravellins and canals that can be inundated, a hallmark of Dutch military engineering during the 80 Years' War and beyond. The interior plan is just as intentional, a central market square, radial streets, and concentric loops that move soldiers fast and keep the town legible during panic. Gates align with the main axes like a ruler laid on parchment. Nothing is accidental. Naarden's job was to guard approach routes to Amsterdam, and it did so through wars with Spain, France, and later Napoleon. But even as it bristled with artillery, it traded textiles and functioned as a market town. Crucially, the Netherlands preserved the fortifications rather than bulldozing them for growth, so Naarden today is one of Europe's best-kept star towns: blue moats, green berms, brick ramparts, and precise angles you can trace from a drone shot. Stand on a bastion, and you grasp the logic immediately. Geometry wasn't decoration, it was survival. Yet the same logic makes the town strangely serene now. Straight streets, sensible scales, and water glinting between points of the star. Number 12. Brasília, a capital drawn like an airframe, Federal District, Brazil. Where older geometric towns defended, Brasília declared. Built between 1956 and 1960, it moved Brazil's capital from the coast to the interior and turned modernist planning into a full-scale national project. Urbanist Lucio Costa laid out the macro diagram: an axial monumental axis for federal power, Congress, Supreme Court, presidential palaces, and sweeping residential wings of superquadras, each a self-contained neighborhood with schools, shops, and parks. Architect Oscar Niemeyer gave the plan its iconography: the parabolic cathedral, the bowl-and-dish legislature, the razor-thin palaces floating on columns. From above, the whole reads like a cross or aircraft, symmetry meeting curve in one controlled gesture. The promise was order, speed, and equity. Highways glide past monumental lawns, zoning untangles functions, public housing repeats a democratic unit. The critique is just as famous: distances are large, cars dominate, and informal life can feel squeezed by the scale. Both truths live here. Brasília became UNESCO-listed as a living artifact of mid-century optimism, a city that treats geometry as statecraft and the skyline as a national signature. Walk the Esplanade at sunset, and feels like a stage set for a republic, a straight line of power cut by sky and concrete, with residential wings curving away like the plane that carried the capital inland. Number 11. La Plata, the grid that X-rays itself, Buenos Aires Province, Argentina. Founded in 1882 to be a purpose-built provincial capital, La Plata is a masterclass in grid logic with diagonal shortcuts. Architect Pedro Benoit overlaid a perfect square of orthogonal streets with two great diagonals that cross at Plaza Moreno, then sprinkled regular parks every 6 blocks so green space is always within walking distance. The diagonals weren't for drama alone. They slash travel times, create sight lines to landmarks like the soaring neo-Gothic cathedral, and help strangers orient instantly. Government, culture, and education occupy deliberate nodes: the provincial palace, theater, and the University of La Plata, alma mater to multiple Nobel laureates, all set where the geometry says they should be. La Plata embraced technology early. Electric street lighting lit up its avenues soon after founding, and the plan absorbed growth without losing legibility. Aerial views still reveal the unmistakable X over the grid, the parks pulsing like green pixels, and the diagonals stitching the city together. It's rational but not cold, monumental yet walkable. Above all, it shows how a simple geometric tweak can turn a standard grid into a city that feels both efficient and ceremonial. Number 10. The Gordie Howe International Bridge, Detroit, USA, and Windsor, Canada. Straddling the Detroit River, the Gordie Howe International Bridge isn't just a bridge. It's an act of continental engineering diplomacy. Connecting Detroit, Michigan to Windsor, Ontario, it stands to become one of the largest cable-stayed bridges in the Western Hemisphere, stretching roughly 2.5 kilometers end to end. Named after the legendary Canadian hockey player, the bridge represents one of the most vital trade corridors between the U.S. and Canada. More than 25% of all goods exchanged between the two nations cross this stretch of river every year. The existing Ambassador Bridge, built in 1929, had become a bottleneck. Its aging structure and limited lanes couldn't handle the surge of modern freight and passenger demand. Construction began in 2018, overseen by the Windsor Detroit Bridge Authority, a Canadian Crown corporation. But this project isn't just about steel and concrete, it's a binational ecosystem. On both sides, new ports of entry, customs plazas, and highway interchanges are being built from scratch, connecting seamlessly to Ontario's Highway 401 and Michigan's I-75. At its heart, the design revolves around two soaring pylons over 220 meters tall, anchored deep into the riverbed. Between them, 853 meters of suspended deck will carry 6 lanes of traffic, along with pedestrian and cycling paths. Each component has to be assembled with millimeter precision, all while coordinating two sets of regulations, contractors, and environmental standards across a border. As of 2025, the bridge's towers dominate the skyline, cables fanning out like silver threads. Completion is slated for 2026, after which trucks, commuters, and tourists alike will glide across one of the most striking modern bridges in North America. Beyond architecture, the Gordie Howe Bridge embodies something larger, a promise of connection, trade, and shared ambition between two nations bound by a river and a dream of movement. Number 9. The Sydney Metro, Sydney, Australia. Australia's largest public transport project isn't a highway, it's a railway. The Sydney Metro is a new rapid transit network that's quietly redrawing how millions move across the city. When finished, the system will stretch 113 kilometers with 46 stations, and here's the key, it will be fully automated, the first of its kind in Australia. No drivers, no delays, just continuous, synchronized precision. The story began in 2019 with the opening of the Metro Northwest, linking Rouse Hill to Chatswood through 13 sleek stations and 15 kilometers of twin tunnel, the longest in the country. But the true marvel lies beneath Sydney Harbour, the city and southwest extension. Engineers are boring 15.5 kilometers of twin tunnels directly under the harbour and central business district, one of the most challenging undertakings in Australia's history. This isn't just an infrastructure upgrade. It's a redefinition of urban mobility. With lines like Metro West and Metro Western Sydney Airport under construction, the system will connect the new Nancy Bird Walton Airport to St. Mary's and Parramatta, reshaping the region's growth corridors. The total cost, over 40 billion Australian dollars, is an investment in Sydney's next century. Every station has been designed with integration in mind, multimodal hubs where bus, bike, and train systems converge. Energy-efficient lighting, real-time data systems, and passenger platform screen doors make it one of the most advanced metro systems on Earth. By 2026, Sydney will feel smaller, faster, more connected. The Metro's clean geometry, straight lines cutting through hills and beneath the harbour, is the modern answer to the sprawl of the past century. For a city known for its bridge and its sails, this network will be the new backbone beneath the waves. Number 8. Hinkley Point C, Somerset, England. On the stormy coast of Somerset, England, a new giant rises where industry meets the sea. Hinkley Point C is the United Kingdom's first new nuclear power station in more than 2 decades, a project meant to secure the country's low-carbon future. Developed by EDF Energy in partnership with China General Nuclear Power Group, Hinkley Point C will house 2 European pressurized reactors, EPRs, generating a combined 3,200 megawatts, enough to power over 6 million homes. When complete, it'll supply roughly 7% of Britain's electricity while cutting greenhouse emissions by millions of tons each year. But building a nuclear plant on this scale isn't just about physics, it's about persistence. Approved after years of financial wrangling and environmental scrutiny, construction finally began in 2016. The site's marine works alone are staggering. Vast intake tunnels draw cooling water from the Bristol Channel, bored through rock by some of the largest tunnel machines ever deployed in Britain. Delays and cost overruns have haunted the project. Its budget has climbed from £18 billion to over £32 billion, but visible milestones mark steady progress. Reactor bases have been poured, turbine hulls framed, and cooling systems installed. Environmental safeguards, such as fish protection measures and habitat restoration, reflect modern sensibilities about coexistence between energy and ecology. If all goes to plan, the first reactor will go online by 2029, the second a year later. When both are humming, Hinkley Point C will stand as one of Europe's most powerful nuclear stations, a modern cathedral to energy, silent, immense, and built for a future that demands both electricity and restraint. Number 7. The Jakarta-Bandung High-Speed Railway, Indonesia. Indonesia's first high-speed railway isn't just a transportation upgrade, it's a milestone in Southeast Asian engineering. Stretching 142 kilometers between Jakarta and Bandung, it cuts what was once a 3-hour drive into a 40-minute glide. The line is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, built as a joint venture between Indonesian state enterprises and Chinese firms using Fuxing train sets capable of 350 kilometers per hour speeds. Construction began in 2016, navigating both political ambition and Indonesia's famously difficult terrain. The route includes 13 tunnels, long elevated viaducts, and advanced seismic reinforcements for a country that sits on the Ring of Fire. The challenges went beyond geology. Land acquisition disputes and pandemic delays stretched the timeline and raised costs from $5.5 billion to over $7 billion. Despite that, by 2023, the line entered service under the name WOOSH, short for fast, efficient, reliable. It's not just a symbol of modernization, but a hint of what's to come. Future extensions could run all the way to Surabaya, making high-speed rail the new standard for archipelagic connectivity. Critics warn of debt and maintenance burdens. Supporters see an economic flywheel, new jobs, faster trade, and urban sprawl finally tied together by steel. Whichever way history judges it, the Jakarta-Bandung Line represents a turning point, Southeast Asia stepping into the world of ultramodern, homegrown infrastructure. Number 6. The Istanbul Canal, Turkey. Imagine cutting a new sea through a continent. That's the scale of the Istanbul Canal, Turkey's most controversial and ambitious project since the Bosphorus Bridge. Proposed as a 45-kilometer-long artificial waterway connecting the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara, the canal would essentially create a second Bosphorus, giving ships an alternative route to one of the world's busiest and riskiest maritime passages. Announced in 2011 as part of Turkey's Vision 2023 initiative, the project aims to relieve the Bosphorus, where over 40,000 vessels pass each year, and reduce the risk of collisions and hazardous cargo accidents near Istanbul's densely populated shoreline. It's also meant to generate new economic zones, jobs, and maritime fees for the Turkish government. The proposed canal will be 275 meters wide and 21 meters deep, large enough to handle the world's biggest container ships. Its path snakes through the European side of Istanbul, cutting across agricultural lands, forests, and wetlands, a fact that has drawn sharp criticism from environmentalists. While early preparatory work began in 2021, progress has been uneven. Financing, estimated at $15 billion or more, remains the largest barrier, alongside diplomatic concerns. Under the Montreux Convention, Turkey cannot freely charge military tolls through natural straits, so the new canal would create a new legal category and potentially a new geopolitical flashpoint. Supporters hail it as the project of the century. Critics call it an ecological gamble. As of 2025, excavation and road building are underway, but full-scale construction remains in negotiation. Whether it becomes a triumph of engineering or a cautionary tale of ambition, the Istanbul Canal already stands as a symbol of a nation's determination to reshape its geography, literally. Number 5. The Crossrail Project, Elizabeth Line, United Kingdom. Beneath London's centuries-old streets lies a modern miracle of tunneling and timing, the Crossrail Project, now known as the Elizabeth Line. It's one of Europe's largest and most complex urban transport achievements, a subterranean artery running 118 kilometers from Reading and Heathrow in the west to Shenfield and Abbey Wood in the east. The idea was simple but immense: relieve London's crammed underground network by threading a new high-capacity rail line directly beneath its historic heart. Construction began in 2009, carving 42 kilometers of fresh tunnel through layers of soil, clay, and history. Engineers had to weave between existing tube lines, Victorian sewers, and building foundations, sometimes with mere centimeters of clearance. The project's price tag climbed from £14.8 billion to over £19 billion, thanks to the sheer intricacy of integrating 21st-century signaling systems with a city built on 19th-century bones. But the payoff is extraordinary. Travel times across London have been slashed in half. A journey from Paddington to Canary Wharf that once took over 30 minutes now takes just 18. Stations like Tottenham Court Road and Canary Wharf aren't just functional, they're cathedrals of light and motion. Curved white panels, vast escalators, and layered concourses blend engineering with sculpture. And the effect on London's economy has been immediate. Property values around new stations have surged, and the line now carries up to 200 million passengers annually. More than a railway, Crossrail represents London's ability to renew itself without erasing its past, a 21st-century system humming quietly beneath a medieval grid, keeping one of the world's greatest cities moving like clockwork. Number 4. NEOM, Saudi Arabia's linear city of the future. If the Renaissance built stars and the Victorians built grids, the 21st century's shape might just be a straight line. Welcome to NEOM, Saudi Arabia's $500 billion urban experiment along the Red Sea coast, an audacious attempt to build the city of the future from scratch. Spanning 26,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Albania, NEOM is the centerpiece of Saudi Vision 2030, the kingdom's plan to diversify its oil-based economy. Its flagship project, The Line, is a 170-kilometer-long city planned to house 9 million people within mirrored walls just 200 meters wide and 500 meters tall, running straight through desert, mountain, and coast. Inside, the design promises zero cars, zero emissions, and 100% renewable energy. High-speed transit pods would move residents end-to-end in 20 minutes. AI systems would manage infrastructure invisibly, lighting, air, water, logistics, while the natural environment outside is meant to stay untouched. But the line is only one facet. Oxagon, a floating octagonal industrial hub, aims to revolutionize global manufacturing. Trojena, a snow-capped mountain resort, will host winter sports in the desert, and Sindala, a luxury island, will cater to tourism and yachts. Each is part of the same futuristic ecosystem, self-contained, networked, and fully digital. Construction began in the late 2010s, with roads, tunnels, and early superstructure work visible by 2025. Yet the project faces skepticism, logistical, financial, and ethical. Can you really sustain a megacity in the desert on renewables alone? Can a society thrive in a straight line? For its advocates, NEOM isn't just architecture, it's a manifesto of reinvention. For critics, it's a cautionary tale about hubris. Either way, NEOM is already redefining what urban ambition looks like in the 21st century. Not circular, not star-shaped, but linear, vertical, and entirely new. Number 3. China's high-speed rail network. Some projects reshape cities. China's reshaped an entire continent. In less than 2 decades, the country has built the largest high-speed rail system in human history, more than 42,000 kilometers of track as of 2025, carrying over 2/3 of the world's fast trains. The expansion began in the early 2000s when booming urbanization strained the country's aging conventional railways. The first major line, Beijing to Tianjin, opened in 2008, setting the template. Since then, China has laid thousands of kilometers of elevated track at record-breaking pace, following an 8 vertical, 8 horizontal grid that now connects virtually every city, over 500,000 people. It's not just about speed. The network's hallmark is engineering consistency. Around 80% of high-speed routes are elevated or tunneled, avoiding road crossings and geographic constraints. Lines sweep across mountains and wetlands with viaducts so long they vanish into haze. Specialized train sets, the Fuxing series, operate at 350 kilometers per hour, built entirely domestically and adapted for every climate from tropical south to frozen northeast. Among its most ambitious components is the Sichuan-Tibet line, one of the toughest projects ever attempted, threading through earthquake zones and altitudes above 3,000 meters, where air is thin and the terrain alive with fault lines. Tunnels, bridges, and oxygen systems for workers turn every kilometer into a triumph of endurance. Financed through a blend of government bonds, regional funding, and corporate debt, the system's cost runs into hundreds of billions of dollars, but the return is transformative. Travel times between cities have been cut from days to hours, regional economies are booming, and rail technology has become one of China's major exports. Whether viewed as infrastructure or soft power, China's high-speed rail is the largest and fastest engineering rollout of the modern era, a network so vast it can be seen not just on a map, but from orbit. Number 2. Dubai Creek Tower, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. In Dubai, ambition tends to look up, and few projects look higher than the Dubai Creek Tower. Conceived as the next world's tallest structure, it's designed to pierce the sky beyond even the Burj Khalifa, standing over 1,000 meters tall when complete. Announced in 2016 by Amar Properties and designed by Spanish-Swiss architect Santiago Calatrava, the tower will anchor the Dubai Creek Harbor development, a futuristic district rising along the historic creek that first gave Dubai its name. Calatrava's design takes inspiration from the lily flower and the minaret, fusing organic form with sacred geometry. A slender concrete core shoots upward, supported by a web of steel cables fanning out like petals, a modern reinterpretation of a tented mast rising from desert sand. At its summit, observation decks and the pinnacle room will offer panoramic views of the Arabian Gulf and the glittering cityscape below. Unlike most skyscrapers, Dubai Creek Tower isn't designed for offices or apartments. It's a symbolic structure, an architectural statement meant to redefine the skyline. Its foundations, some of the deepest ever poured, anchor it into bedrock to counteract wind and seismic pressures. Progress has been deliberate. By 2025, foundation and podium works are largely complete, though vertical construction awaits final go-ahead tied to market recovery. But even unfinished, the project stands as a declaration of intent. Dubai remains committed to building not just tall, but iconic. When finally rises, Dubai Creek Tower will do more than claim a record. It will stand as a monument to aspiration itself, the human instinct to draw lines upward, just to see how far we can reach. Number 1. The Brenner Base Tunnel, Austria and Italy. Buried deep beneath the Eastern Alps, the Brenner Base Tunnel is quietly becoming the longest underground rail tunnel in the world, a 64-kilometer engineering odyssey linking Innsbruck, Austria, with Fortezza, Italy. Its purpose is deceptively simple: to bypass the steep, congested Brenner Pass, Europe's historic north-south bottleneck for freight and travel, and replace it with a flat, high-speed route that cuts travel times from 80 minutes to 25. The tunnel structure is an underground twin miracle. 2 single-track tubes, each about 8 meters wide and separated by 40 meters, joined every 333 meters by cross passages for safety. Between them runs an exploratory gallery used for geological mapping and drainage, a network totaling nearly 230 kilometers of excavation when auxiliary routes are counted. Work began decades ago with pilot drilling, but full-scale tunneling accelerated in the 2010s under a partnership between Austria, Italy, and the European Union. Excavation crews face mountain pressures over 1,700 meters deep, extreme rock temperatures, and groundwater inflows requiring constant adaptation. As of 2025, more than 80% of the excavation is complete, with main breakthroughs connecting the two nations already achieved. The final years will see lining, track installation, ventilation, and safety systems before its expected opening in the early 2030s. Once operational, the Brenner Base Tunnel will transform European logistics. Freight trains will cross the Alps without steep climbs or heavy diesel locomotives, shifting goods transport from road to rail and slashing emissions. Passenger trains will connect Munich and Verona in under 4 hours, creating a true high-speed corridor across the continent. Beyond its statistics, the tunnel symbolizes Europe's broader project: integration through infrastructure, nations literally meeting beneath mountains. When the first trains glide through its polished tunnels, the Brenner Base will stand as a quiet but profound triumph of cooperation, persistence, and precision, geometry turned into unity.